Hey, idiot hookers! This is another review for Scream Queens. This would be Season 2, Episode 2, entitled Warts and All. I'll also be doing some theories at the end of this review, so make sure you stick around for that. Okay, so speaking of theories, I had two from last week. I predicted that Chanel No. 5 was going to live, so that turned out to be true. But I also predicted she wouldn't be in this episode. I thought they were going to keep her status a mystery. That was not the case. So, 1 for 2. Or 1 for 1. I'm not good with the meath. Anyway, let's just get into the review. I thought it was a very funny episode. Funnier than the last one. And of course, that's because Glenn Powell's back as Chad Radwell. Oh, God. That guy. I'm going to say it. I think he's the best part of Scream Queens. Is Chad is just how clueless this guy is. And his arc, I guess, is going to be trying to win Chanel back from the doctor and competing with the guy in this episode. I mean, the shower scene. I know you ladies liked it because, Glenn Powell, and I guess John Stamos, both shirtless. But I just loved it because of the pure comedy, just him trying to intimidate the guy and them going back and forth. And at the end, I think we touch wieners. Yeah, like I said, Chad, one of the best parts. And of course, Niecy Nash is back as Denise. I mean, she was in the first episode pretty briefly. She's back on the case as a special FBI investigator who learned some stuff in Quantico and watching shows about Quantico and watching the show Quantico. the Quantico trifecta. And of course, she still thinks Zayday did it. So anyway, we had a flashback to the 80s. It was supposed to be a year after the one guy died, where we see Dr. Mike again. He's the guy who basically let the patient die and dumped him in the swamp. Him and the nurse get killed, and everyone else working that shift get killed. That was quite the surprise, I mean, they just, I thought it'd be like how it was with Season 1, where you slowly learn what happened to all the sorority sisters that were involved in the death, baby being born cover-up. You find out what happened to this one, you find out what happened to this one. Nope, second episode, they're all dead. The nurse, the doctor, everyone involved is... So it kind of sort of, when it comes to making a theory, I'm going to say I no longer think that the killer's motivation is revenge for what happened in, 84? Or, the guy who got dumped in the swamp because of, that was the motivation back in 86. I think, like if it was the wife doing the killing, I think she's already satisfied that she wiped out everyone involved. But we'll get into more of that. So like I said, this episode had one of the biggest things was Chanel No. 5 trying to find some happiness with this guy who's all covered in warts, but underneath he's supposed to be this really hot guy, and I think he's played by an actual model. And, that led to some funny scenes. I like how the Chanel set it up. They had the big celebration. It's like, you look beyond, appearances and what society told you what was ugly. And you think, oh, Chanel No. 5, they're finally giving her some props. No, they're talking to the wart boy. Also, I noticed, there was a scene in the diner where two guys are making fun of them. They're like, you look like a hemorrhoid. They walk away, and all of a sudden, Chanel No. 5 just gives the beat down on them. Were those the same two guys from Season 1? There was, a frat guy. It's like when the Chanels were talking about how they're being, objectified by men. This one guy comes up and says, hey, hot ladies, and they get pissed off, and then this other guy comes in, oh, come on, you just complimenting. And they beat the shit out of both of them. Were those the same guys? Because I think they were the same guys. I mean, it played out the same way. One of the Chanels puts the beat down to them. Anyway, like I said, that was funny. Let's see what else we have. Well, Dr. Munch is apparently dying. She was in Papua New Guinea eating a guy at a funeral celebration and contracted the disease. Now, into theories, I'm thinking she doesn't actually have the disease. I think she's going to fake her own death. Because it seems like, like last season with the sandwich deal where she was accused of killing her ex-husband, and she went to Grace. She's like, help me out here. And then she set it up where it made it look like she couldn't eat bologna sandwiches. She's like, I have, something that I can't have the salts in bologna, which turned out to be bologna. She was just setting up her ex-husband's mistress because she took the bite out of the sandwich, was the false teeth, blah, 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 DNA. So I think we're going to see a replay of that where she wants to fake her own death, so she's going to pretend she's got this Kuro disease, and, well, she turns out to be alive. What her motivation for doing that is, I don't know. Maybe she's out of money, she gets concerns, and blah, blah, blah. Who knows? She wants to go, fake her own death. I think that's what's going to happen with that. I already got into the green meaning. I don't think the person's motivation is revenge for what happened to the one guy, the patient. It's going to be something different, just because on account of everyone who was, at fault in that got wiped out. Of course, with horror movies, even if some tragedy happened, like in like Friday the 13th, where Jason drowns because two counselors were screwing around. A year later, his mother kills those two, but she still thinks the camp can't be opened, and every time they try to open it, she goes berserk, sets stuff up, and then, in the original movie, she wiped out all these counselors who had nothing to do with her son's death. And, of course, Jason wants to avenge her death in the sequel, gets the chick who did it, but then hangs around Camp Crystal Lake, killing anyone who goes around there smoking weed and having sex. So, maybe that's the case with the Green Mimi. It's the son or the wife, and they don't want that hospital open, so they're just going to keep on killing people. But I'm thinking maybe Hester's involved. She's also, they brought back her, and she's doing this sort of Hannibal Lecter Silence of the Lambs bit, and she knows who the killer is, right? So I'm thinking maybe in her time when she was in the asylum, either this new one or the one that she grew up in, she met the actual original killer. Maybe it was the wife, and they were getting ideas for the Red Devil killer. And she said, oh, this is pretty interesting. And now she's setting it up. She tells someone else, hey, would you like to be the Green Mimi? Go around killing people in the hospital, and maybe Hester's motivation is how she's going to get out of the mental institution. I'm not locking that down yet, because like I said, we're only 2 episodes in. We don't know all the characters who we're going to be seeing. But it's something to keep in mind, because if they're going full Silence of the Lambs, you remember in that one, he knew who the killer was because the killer had dated one of his previous patients. He was a shrink, and the one guy who dated the killer was one of his patients who ended up killing himself. Hannibal ended up killing him, and because he was pretty bad at playing the flute or some damn thing. So I'm thinking maybe that's what they're going for. And of course I could be wrong. But like I said, that's the 2 theories I am going to lock down are once again Dr. Munch, Dean Munch. She's not dying from that disease. It's all an elaborate plot so she can fake her own death for some reason. And the killer is not connected to the guy who died back in the 80s and got dumped into the swamp. Those are 2 theories I've got now.